think what has become exposed and was always true is that the building of the tool was never really the hardest part in most cases. I mean, you launch your product and then what, right?
You can't charge someone thousands of dollars a month and have it break.
You have a social security number and reputation to lose. That's what people are buying. Organizations pre-AI, you need to have people doing 60% effort just because someone needs to turn that part of the wheel in the machine.
Pipeline solves 90% of your problems. Welcome back to another episode of the Bridge the Gap podcast powered by Revenue Reimagined. We have two, not one, but two special guests with us today. I'm going to give the most important one the intro first. We have Alex Boyd with us. Sorry, Jake. He's the co-founder of Wildfront and a multi-time SaaS founder who shifted from building for exit to buying, building, and holding profitable companies. He's exited multiple ventures, scaled revenue teams, and now runs a growing portfolio of SaaS products and investments under one mandate: sustainable cash flow. We're going to talk about long-term thinking in SaaS, the power of founder brand, and what it takes to build durable assets instead of chasing short-term hype. That's guest number one. Guest number two? No, I'm kidding. Guest number two is Dale decided to go be on a boat. I don't know why. He thinks that's more important than spending time with Alex. We have Jake back in the house, holding it down, keeping me on track, and making sure I don't fuck things up. Sorry, bad word. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back. My goal is to eventually just slowly take over from Dell and people just start admitting that they like me more. So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's rock and roll. I like it. Let's have some fun. And Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute.
So Alex, you've had quite a journey and a lot of successes in your career, and you've exited several companies. But now, from our conversations with you and looking, in research, it looks like you're more focused on a buy, build, and hold motion. What changed your philosophy from what you were doing before to now having a holdings company and having this different approach to business? Or is it different?
Yeah, I mean, there's some similarities for sure. I've never been someone who enjoyed the kind of eat ramen for 10 years and then hope for a big IPO type of thing. That was never my style. And yet, when you don't have any excess under your belt, building a company that cash flows, my first one was a services company, an agency. It's a pretty stressful business model to run.
No.
Yeah. Wouldn't you guess? Some people are cut out for it. Some people, they're okay with that. They're just, I think, constituted differently.
It's hard.
Dale's not cut out for it.
I think all of us go through that phase though, right? And Alex, you probably know it better than any. There's days that I'm like, wow, this was great. I got to help 5 or 6 different clients and I was involved in a million different things. And there's days that I'm like, man, I got 5 or 6 people asking for my time. I don't have 35 seconds. I need to see my wife. My kid's walking through the door and all I could do is wave at him. My mind is about to blow. Services is hard, especially when you are the service.
Very, yeah. So I don't, I pretty much swore off of building agencies. It's not that we would never provide a service again. Yeah, I know. We always say that. But it's less of what I'm interested in doing. And so some of what I'm doing is similar. I'm doing a little bit of coaching here and there, but really on my own terms, not as a service, but just for the companies that I'm an investor in. Which just feels better. It's sort of a better relationship when you're a partner and not asking for a fixed portion of cash flow. And yeah, so I enjoy the psychographic motion that I have now, which is just far fewer meetings. First of all, I used to have 8 to 10 Zooms on my calendar many days. Now, it's most common that I have none, which is nuts. It's so nuts.
I'm jealous. Jake, how do we get no Zoom meetings in a day?
Oh yeah, we stopped doing a service company, right? That's the point.
I mean, there is this whole we're building software thing, but right. I move on.
Well, you said something interesting that kind of got me thinking. You said it's less of what I'm interested in now, and is it, Alex? is it that you always knew you weren't interested completely in doing services for the remainder of your
Mm.
career? Or did that journey teach you more about what you're interested in and lead you to this?
So when I was actually going to join someone else's agency early on and do the operations part that I then preferred. That didn't work out, and I was in my mid-20s and had no idea how that you should read what you sign before you sign it. So I ended up having to
Made
uh,
that mistake.
yeah, I had to basically be abandoned and pay a six-figure settlement, which forced me into a business
Oh,
model that had higher revenue. So I
Ooh.
actually had bought in 2017, I bought salesopscourse.com, and I was gonna make like how to design your Salesforce courses. That was my like, I'm gonna do that next thing and do a little bit of consulting on the side. So I was never intending to build an agency. I was just sort of forced into it. And then I was like, well, we're here, let's build it.
mhm.
Uh, and so, yeah, I kind of was just like, had a good attitude about it, but it was never what I set out to do. Um, Fun times. It built a good reputation. I mean, Revenues In is like a good name now, and so that's
Yeah.
cool. Great domain too. I was just like, I'm just very
It
happy with
is.
how many times we could pivot without changing the name. With that, I was like, oh, this is great. Didn't have to rename the company once with four pivots. So it was nice.
What when you look at now, so your mind shift has changed, no agencies, going SaaS, like all of the world of acquisition, like what makes a SaaS product attractive in your mind, to either partner with, build, or acquire? And I'm going to give you a caveat for that just based on a conversation Jake and I just got off of with one of our founders, where an investment banker basically said, and Jake, gut check me here, I'm going to paraphrase, but like, SaaS is so damn difficult now. Valuations are going to crap because you could just go build it in your garage with Claude.
Mhm, mhm. You don't even have to go to your garage. You can just do it from the couch.
Yeah.
That's what he said. All right.
That's a very interesting investment banker. Um,
I mean, as someone who not, and I want to hear your answer, but as like someone who vibe codes and like I build stuff all the time. I'm not naive to think I'm building enterprise level software for $100 million company to come out and use. Like that's not something you're building on your couch with a Bolt or Lovable or Cursor or pick your poison.
right. Well, I think what has become exposed and was always true is that the building of the tool was never really the hardest part in most cases. If you're building a frontier model, yeah, sure, that's the hardest part. But if you're not building a frontier model, then it's almost never the tech. Um, it was everything else that came after that. I mean, you launch your product and then what, right? So
Yeah.
you build 20% of what Salesforce has and you put up a landing page and write a LinkedIn post and then what? And that's where people have
Try to support
realized,
it when the integration breaks.
yeah, I mean, the integration, the hundreds of integrations that Salesforce has
Yeah.
troubleshot, the customer relationships, the contracts, the know-how, just the business of it, the whole messy business of it. And not to mention the go-to-market. I mean, the go-to-market is what you learn from running the business,
Right.
and it reflects that. After a certain point, the go-to-market becomes kind of useless. You can run a terrible ad campaign and people continue to buy not because of your terrible ad campaign, but because the product, and people pass that off as amazing marketing and they think, "Oh, that's great." Well, really it was totally ineffective. It just was run by the big brand who has their product. So I don't think of so that's one thing. And then also people like me are acquiring very different SaaS products than um, investment bankers seem to be helping work on deals for. What we look for is a very boring niche vertical SaaS that does something that is used by a corner of the world that is not often talked about. Um, like we looked at a niche Google App Store Chrome extension recently that did something again very niche within e-discovery that was like one piece of the puzzle for what an e-discovery person does. Um, if in terms of AI defensibility, that's kind of the big one for small tools, because if it's a small tool, AI defensibility is the big factor. Like, why can't you do this with Claude? And then the question is, would it be more likely that someone would build their own version of this, or whether they would use Claude to simply call the tool via an API or MCP to do the thing, which is often what happens,
Mm,
right? Like my Claude calls the data for SEO API, and so data for SEO is not something I'm able to build myself. It's not about building it; it's about the rest of the data moat. So I'm calling it, I'm not building it. And so you have to kind of make a judgment call: is are people's LLMs more likely to call on this thing, or are people going to say, "No, I'm going to build that one myself"? And like you said earlier before we started the show, I mean, I have 2 or 3 Claude Code windows in my monitor over here at any given time, and they're all building different stuff. Whether it's a website, 2 websites, an internal tool. My co-founder is doing the same thing with our external tool portfolio. So building was never really the hard part. It's just become a lot less time consuming. But the rest of the stuff is where all the magic happens. So if you get lucky enough to acquire a company that has great distribution, you've bought a lot more than a code base, haven't you? So that's why I think that like you can't acquire a SaaS thing doesn't work as well unless it's such a bloated price point that AI is going to have downward pricing pressure. In which case, yeah, you might get your margins squeezed. In fact, you'll certainly see margins getting squeezed for legacy non-AI providers. But it's not going to put them out of business.
Yeah. It's I agree 100%. And I think the one thing you said is key, like hundreds of integrations, right? Like we're just talking one. I built a tool for one of our clients who, every week the reps had to fill out one Word document for a weekly one-on-one and another Word document for, the weekly executive meeting and all of this great stuff. And super easy, super cool. I built it on an airplane on my way home from that client and it works really well. Although I got a message this morning that like, hey, when I go to hit submit, I'm getting in this endless loop. So I'm now
Yeah.
going back and like, that's great when there's 6 people who are using it. Now imagine if this is some enterprise, like you can't do that stuff. Like you
right.
can't charge someone thousands of dollars a month and have it break. And you're the sole point of support because you vibe coded it in your living room.
Man, you got me thinking about something you just said, and like I actually think it rings so true. And no one's, I haven't at least read or heard anyone say this way, but it makes sense to me. Is and I wonder how many people are going to hate this that you said this, but the building was never the hard part,
Mm.
right? Geez, like it's so true, and we're proving that. And we've always kind of known, like, okay, it was execution, but now more than ever, it is brutally exposing that it's distribution, it's go to market, it's partnerships, it's motion, it's how you're getting the build into the hands of your buyers and the validation and generating revenue from it. And which I think is so interesting now, just also coming off of the last, day, 24 hours, everyone's talking about, oh my gosh, if you look at HubSpot, they took such a big hit. I mean, this is everyone's excitement about like, or fear around what AI, like vibe coded CRMs are going to be doing to, big business. But the reality is, like, are you telling me that everyone is going to be able to execute
But
at
Jake,
the same level of
think about it.
distribution?
We say this all the time. Like one of the things I just said this, Alex, to a banker this morning. They're like, why do you get into doing what you do? And because I got tired of seeing so many amazing products that were built great, whether easy to build, hard to build, whatever, turned into shelfware because no one could figure out a proper go to market motion.
That's exactly the point. And it is exposing now more than ever the
Yeah.
need for a proper go to market motion and investment, because that your darlings that you thought were 100% tied to the value of the product, and that any dumbass sales rep off the street could go sell for you, we're proving that perspective has its flaws.
Yeah. There was this kind of legacy excess margin opportunity built in to what you just described for a long time. I mean, we've all seen it, right? We've all interacted with, I'll just say, the typical sales rep at a big company who is, let's face it, terrible and doesn't do a good job and does the bare minimum. And still, they do just fine at their job because they're just happen to be the gateway of doing business with that company, which up till now, it was very hard to create the tech for. So the whole thing just kind of tottered along. And when I was doing consulting, I would get very annoyed by this because I was in the mode of, well, why would everyone not do the best they possibly can? But if you don't need to,
I
you
ask
don't
myself
need
that
to.
every day.
I can't stand that question, but it needs to be asked. And now you kind of have
It's
to. And now there's
yeah,
two sides of the layoff coin now, because on the one hand, I don't want to wish instability on anyone's family. And also and I also don't want to imply that people getting laid off are not doing a good job. That's not at all. But there are many people who were doing a bad job and didn't need to do a good job because there wasn't much pressure to do so, which annoyed me before, and now it's sort of becoming economic reality. So so now it's like I don't want to make fun of it and punch down, but at the same time, there's some readjusting to. You really don't need as many people. Let's just
sure.
say like inbound SDRs, for example, right? Who don't take notes, don't pass you the information to the AE, don't look at what you put in the chat already, and we're really annoying to work with. And now we're saying, okay, before we could use RevOps to kind of smooth over some of those. Now we just don't really need that role in the same way in most cases. And so, again, not wishing instability in families at the same time. That was a really bad experience for the last couple of decades.
People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results. Just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I can tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
Being a buyer of SaaS. So yeah, that's changing. The margin opportunity is changing. But if you're someone who has always just done a good job and done the things that humans need to do versus the things that can be automated, then you're gonna be fine. People never bought from
Yeah.
sales reps because they told them about the product. They did so because there was a throat to choke, so to speak, if something went wrong. You have a social security number and reputation to lose. That's what people are buying. They're saying, "You're putting your name on this. Great. That's you're the rep on my deal. You're going to be hearing from me if things go bad, and that's your incentive to tell me the truth and help me make good decisions, not because you gave me a brochure." So if you're a go to market and you're doing that, then awesome. I don't think there's anything to worry about. We can keep building good SaaS.
I couldn't agree more. I get frustrated often, and I think this is what makes most great leaders, but we all work for the most part as hard as we can, and we're all committed to doing a really good job. And we think when we become leaders, and Jake, you probably know this more than anyone, having led enablement teams, like we think that, oh, everyone's going to try just as hard, and it's everyone on my team is going to, put forth 100% effort just like I do. And we all tend to get really frustrated when we have that person who puts in like 60% effort, and it's like, but I put in 150%. Why don't you? It's such a mind f to me, and it used to frustrate me until I realized like there's a reason that I'm going to sound really cocky here, but like there's a reason that I'm as good as I am, and it's because of the effort I put in, and not everyone's going to put in that same effort.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Let, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about founder brand.
Mm.
So you've built a really powerful brand. You talk about building brand and social presence. So when we talk about like growing social presence and founder-led distribution, how has that influenced your SaaS portfolio?
Positively, thankfully. I mean, it didn't start as founder brand. I started just sort of being a philosopher online and posting about stuff I'd learned being a head of sales. And then
Yep.
it sort of clicked pretty soon on. Once it started creating revenue, my brain got trained to like a Skinner box. Oh, I make good posts, money come out. Like keep doing that, and it was that simple. It really can be that simple. There's that meme of like the dumb guys on the sides and then the smart guy in the middle trying really hard, and like dumb guy and wise guys. It's just make good posts, money come out. And the middle, it's like complicated systems with this automation and that, and have social signals to email sent, and then you create this stupid thing. And really it's just like write good stuff and people will do business with you. You got to extend it a little more than that, obviously, and when you get into the nuances of it, there's a lot to learn. But whether it's been agency or SaaS, it's irreplaceable. I mean, the ability to reach thousands of people a day or twice a day on one and now more platforms, um, is immense. You can't really do that with ads. And the trouble with running ads to do that is an ad impression and an organic impression on your personal brand are worth, in some cases, 20 times different amounts.
Were you reading my next question? That's literally talk about the ROI of founder brand
Ah,
versus personal brand versus traditional paid acquisition.
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's funny because with our last company, we didn't run ads and we couldn't with Aware because I was like, well, this is we basically don't like we can't use the LinkedIn name in the ads because obvious
Yeah,
trademark
no, that'd
issue.
be frowned upon.
Yeah. And then with our other portfolio, like, oh, we have compliance tools. We can totally run ads. And I had this sort of inflated impression, like, oh, I'll just spend on what I was getting through Founder Brand. No, no, no. Terrible ROI. Like, it's not the same thing at all. There's no personal connection there, really. Um, so maybe I'm bad at running ads, but I did my darndest and everything seemed to check out. And most people who are good at ads were like, yeah, it's pretty good. You just need to spend a lot more. And I was like, oh, this is way worse ROI than founder brand stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't have a specific number, but I really can't point to a single customer from, several $1,000s of ad spend on a compliance tool we were running for. I'm sure compliance marketers would be like, oh, it needs to be at least 200,000. To which I say, oh, or I could write, some posts and comments and
We have a client who's in the compliance space, and I'll agree with what you're saying. I don't think I could point to more than maybe a handful that have come from paid ad spend,
yeah. And maybe it's like,
especially in that space.
yeah, that's what it seems like if they either will find you for something through not like the old fashioned way, but well, I mean, a lot of our compliance SaaS signups come from SEO. They just find our website, and I include AI SEO in that too,
Yeah,
because
of
But
course.
is it really that simple, Alex? And hear me out. Like, you make it sound simple, and I guess the question is it sounding that simple because you have years of experience of just essentially figuring out how to explain something complex to a 5-year-old, right?
Mhm.
And what I mean by this is like we've got a lot of founders we work with who either know that they need to invest in founder-led brand or founder-led content, um, and they either just don't want to do it, or we often find that they just don't know where to start. And especially now it's become even more complicated because it's like, well, I could have all these cool ghostwriters do it for me. I could use AI to do it for me, but then I risk
Mhm.
credibility because everyone ends up starting to sound the same on LinkedIn, and you know what those posts look like.
Yeah.
So like what's one solid piece of advice to you could give to a founder, a SaaS founder right now that they could start right now, say, okay,
Hmm.
this is how I can leverage my brand to actually or my voice or my, experience, my wisdom to build a brand.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm being a little bit glib about can it be that simple because I'm disregarding a number of things. Um, I've had a lot of sales experience and training, and if you're a really good seller, you know how to explain things well. And if you
Yep.
can explain things really well, then that makes you better at writing content, which is good. Um, my degree was in philosophy, so I spent a lot of time writing and talking in a way that's very defensible. I tend to be good at talking in a way where you can't easily poke at what I'm saying and find obvious flaws, um, which tends to make my like LinkedIn post hold up really well. I can say things that are like appropriately qualified. It's easy to like disagree with subjective taste things, but it's hard to disagree objectively. And I don't make claims that are giant and easy to poke holes at. Um, so that helped a ton with growing an agency and with selling complex things, is if you don't overclaim. And then just tons of writing practice too. I know what good
Yeah.
writing looks like, and whether I'm using AI or not, everyone should stand behind what goes out on their profile, regardless of
Mhm.
whether you use AI to create it. But that involves you knowing what good writing looks like, because you know what to stand behind. If you don't know what good looks like, it's hard for you to stand behind something good. That can be where a good ghostwriter comes in. They can help you know what good writing looks like. They can gut check whether this really represents you or is kind of generic and watered down. They
Sorry,
can,
are you saying just pick a lane and start? Just just start learning what good writing looks like?
I think
It
it's
is a
important.
thing? Yeah.
I think it's good to prioritize knowing how to communicate well. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
among the most important skills you can commit to. And
Agreed.
like if you're an AI CEO too, right? That's a really important skill. Knowing how to craft a PR announcement that doesn't turn all of Twitter against you, that's a good skill, no matter what level of business you're playing at. So I would argue that if you are saying that's not a skill worth learning, I have better things to do, that you're not observing the situation correctly. And you need to
I
look at
agree.
what CEOs of all levels who are really good, from a small agency to the leader of the free world, in quotes, are doing, and judge whether large scale communication one to many is a skill you should commit to. That's what to learn. I mean, writing a good LinkedIn post is a mild derivative of being a good executive communicator.
Oh, I love that. Like, I think at the end of the day, fundamentally, all business, all derivatives of business and what leads to revenue is our human understanding of conversation and connection and the ability to do that in a way that provokes thought, emotion, and logic, right? So good insight. Okay, so we talked about the kind of the AI hype earlier. Um, and the like I guess the implications that that might have on like product defensibility, modes, and perhaps like the exposing the importance of a good go-to-market motion. What about from a positive perspective and the positive impacts and implications it's having on one's ability to operate for cash flow and for efficiency, right? So what are you seeing as you're going into organizations as you're evaluating, your initial metrics or how they
Mm,
operate that that's having an impact on operating for cash flow?
Oh, it's awesome. Organizations pre AI, you need to have people doing 60% effort just because someone needs to turn that part of the wheel in the machine. And so you have these organizations pre AI and agents that are full of people doing uh that's not the right word to say, that have many people doing dumb stuff at 60% effort, and then you have people working really hard and they're all mishmashed together. That's kind of awkward culturally. Now, you really don't need the people who are not going to put in effort. You just have you in theory can just have the people who are working really hard, and then tech is doing a lot of the jobs that people used to do with, like, I clock in and sort of phone it in, but I'm turning the crank on this one little thing over here. Um, so it's true that you need fewer people doing those same things as before. Now, I'm a firm believer in Jivan's not paradox. I don't even know how you say that, if that's how you pronounce it, but the idea that you will have new jobs be created. Um, but the new jobs that are created are mentally more difficult than the previous ones. And that's just going to take a little bit of time. And I urge people who are in the category of just turning the crank to sort of change their perspective on what level of mental investment they'll be putting into their work. Um, but these post AI organizations, leaner, full of higher effort people, or people that are putting in higher effort. I don't think there's a high effort and low effort person. There's people putting in different levels of output. Um, and it's more enjoyable work. At my first sales job, we had to prospect every day for an hour, which was find 10 people, go to this random online free tool and try different variations of their email until you got a check mark, and then send the same email template and then a calendar reminder to send the follow-up email template.
it's crazy to think that we used to pay people to do this
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, we did it. I did it. I remember. I used to have a Word doc open at a job
Yeah.
before that with the email templates so I could copy and
Yeah.
paste from them. I mean, how terrible that we had to do that. And I don't need to do that anymore. So I can just do more of the fun stuff and less of not fun stuff. So how's it changing organizations? Uh, I think that the post AI change, wherever we are on the spectrum, and every organization is different. Some are maturing faster, some are slower, but you need fewer people doing those bad jobs. You'll, at the end of the day, be able to use your cash flow more flexibly. If you want to hire some more of those higher effort people, you'll be able to scale faster. Revenue per employee goes up. Ideally, overall, just global productivity increases, which is generally better for everyone. It gets us closer to that Star Trek utopia where hopefully heading to, a post scarcity universe. But until then, we're still gonna apparently copy and
Sure.
paste email templates in
There we
some
go.
places.
There we go. Let's so I think that that's a good place to shift into a little bit of rapid fire, because my rapid fire questions are going to pick up on that as we're coming up on time. But we talk
Cool.
about post AI universe. You're talking about revenue per employee. What's the one SaaS metric that founders obsess over too much?
Ah,
Revenue per employee? Kidding.
no, that's a good one.
I was kidding.
Yeah, I
Dale
think they
versus Jake.
I think
Jake
they
versus
obsess over
Dale.
too many things. I think they probably overcomplicate things, and they don't obsess over one thing too much. In fact, if they obsessed only over revenue per employee, I think they'd be better than what they're doing now. I mean, revenue versus profit is one. That's
Okay.
changing. I mean, you got to be really, really ambitious to have a negative gross margin. And if you can pull it off, awesome. But the onus on you to be right about your level of correctness and ambition is very high. If you're cursor, okay, you get your negative gross margin. If you're not cursor, well, maybe you should come off your high horse and, figure out your pricing strategy.
Fair point.
That's an interesting take. All right. This one might feel more like which is your favorite child, but best acquisition you've ever made and why?
Well, I'd say that I haven't done too many. Like haven't done 100 deals. But we bought a smaller competitor for about an eighth of their initial listing price, and
Gee.
we got. It took a few months for that to happen because there was, the back and forth negotiation. They declined in revenue a little bit, but their SEO value was worth multiples of what we paid right up front. So we just bought our SEO wholesale right away for fractions of a dollar
Very cool.
per dollar, and that was if I can do more of those deals, I'll be so happy.
Man, I should have you help with my real estate investing. I like that. I like that haircut you took on them. Alex, what's one AI trend you're skeptical about?
The over agentifying of the front end customer communication part of things. I love all the
Totally
back
agreed.
office process automation, like automate the hell out of every back office process. When it comes to speaking with the most important people of your customers and counting your brand, can you spare a good human for that, please, for now? Unless they're asking, how does this feature work, and they've been paying for 3 months and you can have your bot do that. That's fine. But man, if you're having a GPT do those most important sales touch points, I'm skeptical. That's where people are done best in the process, and there's so much more back office to automate before we should resort to trying to automate that front end part.
100% agree.
All right. What's one habit you have learned to really sharpen over the years that you would say has the biggest influence on your ability to compound wealth over time and success?
Always build pipeline,
Mm.
even if
Big,
you're
fat,
not
healthy
needing it.
pipeline solves 90% of your problems.
Enlarging the size of the pie is helpful for so many things. Among other things, keeping your team and business partners' relationships good is way easier when there's so much happening and there's a lot coming in than when the pie gets smaller. Culture suffers and you don't really know. You're doing everything right, but you don't know why. It's just the human scarcity instinct takes over. So whether it's a team, you're the founder, or anything else, just keep building pipeline, keep investing in marketing, and don't let up on that, unless you want growth to inevitably stall and the negative psychological and cultural effects of that to start trickling in throughout you, your family, your organization.
Love it. Last one, Alex. What's a harder role, founder or operator?
Operator, like executive, non-founder.
Yep.
I'd say founder is harder in terms of stress. Operator is more demanding in terms of actual output work that needs to get done. And so for me, I pick my hard. I don't love the stressed hard as much as I do the output hard. I'd much rather have an output hard. So I
Mm.
think operator is an easier role because that's how I'm constructed mentally. Um, Maybe that's because I am a founder and I'm
Yeah,
speaking
could be.
with that bias. But whenever it's on you to keep the company going and the ownership and ultimate liability falls to you in some way, then that to me feels more risky than just having to do a good job every day, which feels less risky, even if it is demanding in terms of how much you output. There's something to be said for that. But if you're a VP of marketing, the company goes out of business, you just stop receiving your paycheck. There's no like
Right.
potential securities liability if you raise money in the wrong way, right? Like no
Mhm.
one's coming after you if your ARR was 3.1 and you said it was 7.
I know that movie. I've
Yeah.
seen that movie. Um, Alex Boyd, thank you for joining the show. Where can people learn more about you and what you're up to?
Um, LinkedIn's a great place to direct traffic.
LinkedIn.
I've been on LinkedIn for coming up on a decade actively, and still the best place to direct traffic. I know this will go up on LinkedIn, so good there. I'm also building up on Substack and Twitter and so
Nice.
forth, but for now, still like you'll hear about what I'm doing from LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Alex.